great question has come in from you guys in our ever enjoyable Q&As that we had. So this question involves the world of pro wrestling and my career in pro wrestling. It was a really great question. It really got me thinking. And the question was, what is my career high in pro wrestling in the WWE, and what was my career low in the WWE? I'm going to start with my career low because oftentimes our lows are often a setup for one of our highs. So my low started within about 6 months of me first coming into the company of the WWE. I mean, I came in like a bat out of hell. I mean, I came in like a runaway train rolling down that track. I was this young rookie, baby face, fresh out of University of Miami. I was brash, talking shit. We were national champions, played for the national championship multiple times, and we went down, our teams went down as some of the greatest teams in the history of college football, and I played with some incredible players. But when I got to the WWE, had a huge initial match. My very first match in the company was in the Mecca, Madison Square Garden. It was sold out. It was one of the company's big pay-per-views called Survivor Series, and the company had decided that I was gonna win the entire thing. And in order for that to happen, not only do they have to have an incredible amount of investment and confidence in you, but also the locker room has to buy into it too. All my fellow wrestlers had to buy into it. From The Undertaker to Triple H to Stone Cold Steve Austin, everybody who was in the locker room at that time. And the ones who I mentioned certainly did get behind it, but some others didn't, but that's okay. Eventually I persevered through that anyway. So it was my very first night in the company, Survivor Series. I win the whole thing in Madison Square Garden. I got 22,000 people chanting, "Rocky, Rocky." I was on a high. It was like a dream because it was, I could not believe it was happening. I was just so grateful, and it was so humbling. And a few months later, the company decides that they were going to make me Intercontinental Champion. I mean, that's how much I was getting over, ascending in the world of professional wrestling. And in that world of pro wrestling, you know, it's not real. I'm not actually beating somebody in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3. I'm not like knocking them out. It's a dance, it's a show. Nobody's really beating me. I decide who wins, who beats me, and just like my opponent decides if they're going to let me win or not. So the company decided that they were going to make me Intercontinental Champion. Had a phenomenal match with one of my best friends in the pro wrestling business still today, Triple H. And again, I was on a high. Now, what's interesting, what was going on at that time in the world of pro wrestling is it started to shift. And no longer did fans want tradition. They wanted to buck tradition. They didn't like cookie cutter. They didn't want stale. And they wanted anti-authority. And anti-authority came in the form of Stone Cold Steve Austin, where he was telling Vince McMahon right there. And I represented everything that was wrong at that time with pro wrestling. So the fans turned on me. They started chanting, "Rocky sucks, Rocky," every arena I went to. Now imagine I'm the champion, and every arena I went to, they were chanting, "Rocky sucks." And it was hard for me, as you can imagine psychologically, but also hard as a company. The company's scrambling, like, what do we do? They've never seen anything like this before. Vince McMahon said, "I've never seen anything like this." A visceral reaction that is so anti of what we want. It all culminated to WrestleMania. It was my very first WrestleMania as Intercontinental Champion. I wrestled the Sultan, who's also Rikishi. He's my family, my Ainga. And 15,000 people in Chicago were chanting, "Rocky sucks." And this is WrestleMania. And I remember Rikishi telling me, "Don't listen to him," but you can't help it. You're listening to him. That was the culmination. The companies felt like we can't do anything anymore with Rocky Maivia. They took the belt off me, Intercontinental Champion. They gave it to somebody else, Owen Hart, I think it was, a dear friend, rest in peace. And I got hurt and I was sent home for the summer. Now, while I'm sent home for the summer, that was my low, because now I'm at home, I have no money, and I'm thinking my wrestling career is just like my football career. It's all gonna end before it actually begins. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, do I go to law school because I wanted to work for the CIA? And I thought, well, I can't afford law school and my study habits are the shits. I even considered UFC. Do I do UFC? And I thought, well, I prefer not to get punched in the face. Do I go to Japan to wrestle in Japan? I don't know if I could even do that. I need a fresh start. So I had a lot to reconcile, but the main thing I needed to reconcile was the fans booing me. But I realized over that summer that they didn't hate me for being me. They didn't actually hate me. They actually hated the fact that I wasn't being myself, because I would go out as a baby face and they would be like, Rocky sucks. And I was told by the company, you gotta smile because you're happy to be there. So I would go out and fans would say, Rocky sucks. And I would say, hey, thank you. Die, Rocky, die. Yes, all right, yeah. I wouldn't respond, and they hated that. And of course they did. That was my career low. I come back to the WWE. Vince McMahon says to me, hey, I'm gonna bring you back. It was in August of 1997, I'll never forget it. I'm gonna put you with a militant group called the Nation of Domination. These guys all wound up being my brothers, great friends, and it was a black militant group. And Vince said, because you're half black and you're half Samoan, I want you to join the group. I said, I'll join the group, that's fine. But here's the thing, I don't want it to be a black and a white thing. I want it to be a respect thing, because I want to earn the respect of everybody. And I just don't want to say it's because of my color of my skin. And I said, there's something bigger here. There's just a bigger idea here that would help lift the nation. Yes, we could be proud of who we are and our culture, but it's also important that I say, I'm going to go out there. It's not a white thing. It's not a black thing. It's a me kicking your ass thing. Vince said, sure, go out. You go out and say it. I went out and I said it. I said, Rocky Maivia is a lot of things, but sucks isn't one of them. And this is on live TV on Monday Night Raw. And I said, it's not a black thing. It's not a white thing. It's a me whipping your ass thing. Something to that effect. And I just kept it there, dropped the mic. Fans were kind of booing, kind of chanting, Rocky sucks, but they could feel something. They could feel like a difference because I was just being me. The next pay-per-view I had was in Chicago, the place that booed me out of the building. The Nation of Domination, our music hits, and the Nation of Domination was this badass music. It had a thumping drive to it. We are the Nation of Domination. Boom, ta, boom, ta, ba, ba. Kind of like that. And we would walk out. Now I'm walking out, and just in this syncopated beat, you start to hear 15,000 people. Rocky sucks. Rocky sucks. Rocky sucks. I mean, hard, blowing the roof off the place. I got goosebumps now thinking about that, and I had goosebumps walking to the ring. I get in the middle of the ring. I pause. I want to see what happens to this crowd. Rocky sucks. It got stronger. And all I did, I kind of turn around, I look this way. It got so strong. That place was fucking vibrating, that arena. I knew in that moment that I was in rarefied air, and that rarefied air in professional wrestling is me doing absolutely nothing and having the crowd right there in the palm of my hand. Did nothing. Rocky sucks. Looked at him, Rocky sucks. And all I did was go, no. And when I went home that night, back to the hotel, I realized that I had something special. And I was so elated, and it was like a weight was lifted off my body. It was almost like a resurrection. It was like a religious experience when you catch the Holy Ghost. Because then I realized, now with the people, we can dance. Now with the people, we're gonna have a real relationship. And that's the thing in pro wrestling. I always felt in pro wrestling, as I do in my film career, as I do in my other business ventures, is my relationship, even in social media, especially with social media like this, my relationship with the audience, with the people, with the consumer is just that. It's a relationship. We're gonna have a relationship. And every night I went out in those arenas and they were chanting, Rocky sucks. But the beautiful part about it is they knew that I was responding as a real, authentically, and there was no smiling. I'll smile when I want to smile. I'll laugh when I want to laugh. But the bottom line is, I'm in this rarefied air. And now I also, this is what the fans really understood, is I made sure that I was always going to honor that relationship with the fans, of them chanting "Rocky sucks" in arenas all around the world. Now, I know that's kind of an abstract way of thinking. It's not a typical way of thinking. It's very counterintuitive, because you're like, wait, everybody's chanting "Rocky sucks" and they're hating you. Why would you embrace that? I embrace it because it's the relationship. And I know that they know that they know that I know that we have a connection. And eventually it got to a place where I just couldn't get booed anymore. As hard as I tried. Then I just turned into a big good guy baby face talking shit. But again, that was the birth of the character of The Rock. But that night when I stood in the ring and they started chanting "Rocky sucks" to the beat of that ring music, and all I had to do was look at him, and it came unglued. That was my high. That was my wrestling high, because that was the anchor that then allowed for everything else to happen the rest of my pro wrestling career. So my low was then chanting "Rocky sucks" as me as a babyface. My high was them chanting "Rocky sucks" with me as a heel, but I was going to respond authentically. And since then, by the way, that logic I carry with me still today. And that is the genesis, that is the anchoring, that's my DNA and my makeup, is always making sure that I'm authentic and real, and always making sure that I embrace and hold on to the relationship that I have with the audience and with the consumer and with the people. Because, and when you treat it like that, and it's benefited me that I treat this like a relationship, we laugh, we cry, we get our asses kicked, we get knocked down, we get back up, we support each other, we entertain each other, we make each other laugh, we live, we go through pandemics, we do everything that we can to be better today than we were yesterday. So this is the relationship that I honor, and that was my lows and high in the world of professional wrestling. And by the way, there's a lot of wrestlers in the locker room, men and women, who feel like they just can't break through, who feel like they're doing everything they possibly can in the world of pro wrestling, and in the WWE, of course, where they can't turn the corner, they can't get over as a wrestler, they're not getting the reactions that they want to get from the audience. Maybe the company doesn't see their value the way that they see their value. My advice to you guys in the locker room, men and women, is to keep pushing through. Keep trying to identify where you can be better. Keep trying to identify how can I connect with an audience. And also, don't be afraid to step away. And I know, again, that in itself is counterintuitive, because you want to make money, and I understand that. But sometimes when you step away from something, it allows for a greater clarity, that you could step back, create space, and go, this is what I wasn't doing right. This is where I can improve. This is how I can connect. Maybe you come back as a different character. Maybe you come back with just a couple of tweaks in the kaleidoscope, tweak, and then all of a sudden you have a different view, and the audience has a different view of you. So I would say just keep plugging away, keep pushing through, and if you need to, create some space, walk away, and you might get that clarity. And then you come back, bang, have this amazing relationship with the audience, and the company sees your value the way they should. All right, thank you guys for the Q&As. As always, I appreciate it. And most importantly, I hope you guys are staying healthy, staying safe, staying sane during this time. And I appreciate y'all. And it's a relationship. I honor it.